So today I'm going to be showing off the Mk.13 series of kitten jets from A to Z. They're all fully thrust vectoring, no gyros, but highly maneuverable fighter jets. This one here has yaw thrusters on the wingtips and articulated yaw on the back, so it's a little bit experimental and clatters a little bit janky. But let me fly it and show it off for you. So we've got pretty good roll, although it's a little bit lazy to get started. We've got good pitch control, though not the best out of the kitten jets for sure. And we've got pretty good yaw power, which makes sense because we've got two different sets of yaw thrust on this plane. And then for armament, we've got 6 smart cannons facing forward, 3 facing backwards, and 2 rockets, as well as a bomb bay. It also features an air brake, where if you yaw in both directions at once, it turns off the yaw thrusters and just spreads the tail open. It has a cruise control, which are the colored lights you can see on the wingtips. So you can lock in whatever amount of thrust you want and take your hands right off the controller. It's good for taking a break for taking a drink of water or petting my cat. And speaking of cats, there's a sound effect on your plane, on a lot of these planes actually. It was originally meant as a meow, but it also works as a hello or as a warning alarm if I'm about to crash or something like that. Mayday, we're going down, we're going down! Just kidding, this plane can actually probably still fly. Yeah, we're good. It's only missing half a wing. We're fine. And here it is in build mode. You can see the entire thing is piston glitched together. So there's about a plane and a half worth here. We've got 2 engine bays, 2 sets of wings, and the only thing that's not doubled up is the tail. And that's about all I'm going to say about this plane, because a lot of the other features are going to be seen on all the other planes too. So moving on. Next up is the Mk.13B, which has pitch and roll on the same servos with larger control surface in the back, and a similar yaw thrust vectoring setup, where it's on servos individually. But it's not so janky. It doesn't clatter around when it's doing the yaw thrust. And we've got very good roll. Decent pitch. And decent yaw. We don't have any wingtip thrusters on this one, so it's a little bit weak with the yaw thrusters. But for armament, we have 8 smart cannons up front and 4 in the back. And a bomb bay that shouldn't do that. It did not do that before the last update. I haven't used it since then, but apparently... Oh, there it goes. That time it actually released the bombs. I don't know why they were blowing up on me there, and I really don't know why it didn't blow up the plane. That's interesting. Anyways, let's take a look at it in build mode. Again, almost the entire plane is piston glitched into itself. Although it doesn't have any extra lift surfaces, it does have the aesthetics for the wings, where I couldn't fit them in because of the hitbox of the control surface. But there's not too much more to say about this one, so I'll move on. Next up is the Mk.13C, which has a much less significant piston glitch. It's only up here in the front to put the weapons in. And it uses a different style of articulation for the yaw. We have, right on the servos that are already used for maneuvering, we have hinges to articulate both the maneuvering thrusters outward for yaw. And this is the style that I continue with for the rest of the 13 series for our yaw thrusters, so I can probably shut up about it after this. I don't think I experiment anymore after this plane. But as you can see, we've got pretty good handling. We've got good pitch. We've got good yaw. And the roll is a little sluggish, but not too bad. We have a lot of the same features that the Mk.13A had. We have the air brake again, and the cruise control. We're missing our little sound effect though. But what we do have, if I switch camera modes here, is a fuel and ammo system. You can see that we're at 79% now on fuel, and if I start firing our guns, we have 50 seconds worth of using our machine guns, and we have 12 pairs of rockets. And when any of these systems get emptied, they actually get disabled. It's not just an aesthetic counter. There's a lot of logic packed in this plane, which I can show you when I pop it in build mode again. I think. Where'd I put the logic? Oh, here's a bunch of the logic. Right in the piston glitch. That's the other reason why I did it, I guess. Anyways, I suppose I'll move on, instead of hunting for logic in here. Next up we have the Mk.13D, which actually has two separate piston glitches, which I believe is because it was bugging out and destroying itself when they were both connected. So we've got a separate piston glitch for the guns and the engine bay and lift. But when it all sinks in together, we kind of have a spade-shaped plane. Little odd wing shape, but it works. We've got very good roll. We're a little sluggish on our pitch, which I think is because the plane is on the long side. And we've got decent yaw. And we've got our standard kit with 6 smart cannons and 2 rockets. And we don't have any extra special features on this one except for the air brake, which I believe the air brake is standard on just about every model after this, so I'll probably stop mentioning it now. And just start cruising through until we get to some more interesting ones. Oop. Any landing is a good landing if you can walk away from it. Then we've got a smaller fighter here, the Mk.13E, and it's got pitch and roll on the same servo in the back, and yaw technically because we've got the hinge there. And we're a bit of a simple Dorito shape, but we're incredibly maneuverable. We've got more pitch control than the plane can really handle. And actually, a lot of control that the plane can't handle. I forgot that this plane is actually a little bit of a janky flyer. It makes it a lot harder to hit because it moves in very, very unpredictable ways. But when you're not in this view, where you're locked into the seat, it's very hard to actually control where you're flying. But being in this camera mode makes it easier. And even though it's a little guy, it still has the standard armament with the 6 smart cannons, 2 rockets, and we do have the cruise control on this, as well as the air brake, of course. Still no sound effect. I forget when I start making that standard again. But yeah, it's a nice little plane. But I'll move on. The Mk.13F is a bit of a long one. It's definitely stretched out lengthwise. And because of that, it's a little bit faster because we've got more engine space, but we've got a little bit less... Actually, no, we don't have less pitch power. Oh, right, we've got doubled up thrusters on our maneuvering set. So we've actually got quite a bit of pitch control, despite being longer. We've got very good yaw, because we have our wingtip thrusters again. And we've got, frankly, a little too much roll. But it recovers quickly, so it's not too bad. It does want to nose up pretty badly. Actually, wait, no, it wants to nose down. But if you... now it wants to nose up. It does not want to track straight. That's the issue. I'm remembering why I didn't use this plane too often. I quickly built a more stable plane, I believe. So let's quickly move on. Now moving on from a flop to an all-star, we have the Mk.13G, which is a nice medium-sized fighter again, with 7 rows of 2 different engine bays. It seems like a nice balance of power. I ended up using this engine setup quite a lot in the series. But you can see we've got our yaw thrusters on the wingtips again, in addition to the articulated yaw on the back. So you can expect that this has quite a lot of yaw force in the thrust vectoring. And we've got very good maneuverability. We can swivel all around. And it's a little slow to stop its roll because of the weight on the wingtips. But other than that, it's pretty easy to control as well. Unlike the last one that was very maneuverable but not controllable. This one kind of ironed out that issue. And it doesn't want to track up or down too bad. It wants to stay nice and level, or whatever angle of attack you leave it at. So, big improvements all around. I've spent a lot more time ironing out the aerodynamic profile on this one. And we've got the standard armament. Nothing special there. And although I don't think I'll pull it out, we do have... Actually, wait, I will pull it out. And we do have a version with a fuel and ammo system in it, which has the same amount of fuel. It's got 250 seconds worth of flight time, 50 seconds worth of ammunition, and 12 pairs of rockets. Although the ammunition counter thing covers up the fuel when you start shooting. A little inconvenient. But other than that, it's the exact same plane, just with the sound effect, the fuel system, and the ammo system in. There's the camera mode. Well then. Oh, and the other thing about the fuel and ammo system is that they recharge when you land. The distance sensor on the bottom just reminded me there. So when you land, you get your fuel and ammo back. Anyways, let's move on. The Mk.13H isn't anything too special. It's just a little bit skinny version of the last one. has the same yaw thrusters and everything like that. It's just a lower power core to be under 100 limit. I think the other one was 130 something, this one's only 92. Same armament, same features, except for no bird sound on this one. No meow. It's got good recovery out of awkward maneuvers. And it's got good handling all around. I don't think I used it too often though, just because it looks a little bit... It looks like a plane went on a bad type of diet and just didn't do well. It looks too skinny. And doing a bunch of bad landings tonight. Now let's move on to the Mk.13I. We've got minimal piston glitching here. It's just the weapons up front and the nose cone. Our Phillips head nose cone. And we've got much wider wings than before, which makes the wingtip thrusters give even more boost by being further from the center of mass. So this one has absolutely incredible strength for its yaw thrusters. We've got our standard kit. We got our sound effect. And of course, just like all the other ones, we got the air brake and cruise control. Just reminding me that they're there because, well, sometimes I forget they're there sometimes. But yeah, the Mk.13I, it tracks very stably. When your fingers are off the control, it holds its angle of attack very well. And it's not the sleekest looking one with the wide wings, but it's a very controllable plane, so I ended up using this in quite a lot of dogfighting. It did pretty good. Not the best out of the series, but pretty good. And hey, I didn't flip over when I landed this time. Wonderful. The Mk.13J is a bit of a special one, because it's the only amphibious jet that I have in the Mk.13 series. You can see we've got our underwater cockpit. It gets piston glitched into place. And it's absolutely covered in different underwater propellers, basically wherever I could fit them in. As well as on all the control surfaces. So we still have full thrust... Oh. Sorry about that. So we have full thrust vectoring above water and underwater. Giving it good maneuverability even at the much slower speed that the water provides it. But it seamlessly transitions. And makes noises like a dolphin would. I can interpret this sound effect in so many different ways it's not even funny. Actually it is funny, because it's a funny sound. Sadly, you can't hear it underwater anymore. I think you can still hear it above water when you play underwater, but when you're actually underwater you can't hear the sound effect, which is a little sad. They just changed that. And it has the standard kit, with 6 smart cannons, 2 rockets, none of which work underwater anymore. I mean, the rockets never did, but thanks to the update, this thing is actually kind of helpless underwater now. I'll have to update it with a pair of lasers. Only a pair, because lasers are 3 times more powerful than smart cannons. It's a good ratio. I would never use more than 1 pair of lasers on a plane, it's just too much. But if I talk about lasers on planes, I'm going to go on a rant, so I'm going to move on. The Mark 13K. I can already remember that I had trouble with this plane because I've got a heavy weight block in here, which means I couldn't fix the balance issues naturally, or with aerodynamics. And it doesn't even have its hearts painted on it. So I don't think I ever used this in combat. It's technically finished. It seems to have good handling. And its only issue, I would say, is it wants to nose down and up. Kind of like the, what was it, the Mark 13F. It was doing the same thing, where it doesn't want to decide whether it wants to go up or down, but it definitely doesn't want to hold straight. So I'm going to move on real quick from this one, because even though it's got some interesting shaping to it, and pins which up here, it's kind of a dud. Next up we have the Mark 13L, which sometimes tears itself apart when it loads in, so here we go. No, we did good this time. It's only about 25% of the time that the piston glitch fails and tears itself apart really catastrophically. But other than that, it's quite a good little plane. It's only a 62 core, so it's on the low side for the Mark 13 series, especially in the early half. But it flies extremely steadily. It holds its angle of attack very well. We've got good pitch control. Pretty good yaw, although we don't have the wingtip thrusters anymore. We're going to be seeing those less and less until they're gone completely. And we still have the full standard kit with 6 smart cannons and 2 rockets crammed in here. And we've got our sound effect and smoke trails, although they are currently bugged out and very, very blurry. I think that happened in the last patch and has yet to be fixed. I don't know if they're working on it or not, but yeah, smoke trails are weird right now. Anyways, let's respawn. And there's what I was talking about before with the catastrophic piston glitch failure. It's not happy about itself right now. There she goes. It only does it once in a while, so it doesn't interrupt fights too often or anything like that. It's only a minor flaw, I say, as it tears itself in half. But moving on. Next up is an all-star that's still in my transform slot, the Mark 13M. Now it doesn't look too much different than the others, but it just is, it's perfectly balanced, I suppose it is. It tracks extremely steadily. It doesn't want to nose up or down on you. And it's quite maneuverable, and recovers from awkward maneuvers very well. So it's just, all in all, been a very good plane to have. It's only 92 cores, so it's about medium power cores, the Mark 13 series. And we've got our standard armament, and all our little features that are standard. We've got the air brake, the cruise control, the meow. But yeah, like I said, it doesn't look anything special, but it's just very finely tuned, and it does the job very well. I've won a lot of fights with this, although I'm not sure how many have actually made it into videos on my channel so far. But it's still in my transform slot, so who knows, there should be more good fights to come with it, and hopefully I'll record those. Also, I should mention that all of these planes are on the PlayStation Gallery. If you search for Kitten Jet, you'll see a whole load of these purple planes. And if you look through for the Mk.13M, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best. But enough about this one. I could talk about it more, but I won't. We're gonna move on to the Mk.13N, which I'll talk about even less because it's less special. It's basically just a couple more power cores. It's 128, but I was trying to make it equal to the Mk.13M and kind of failed. It wants to it wants to nose down, but if you flick it up a little bit, it drifts upward for a while too. So it's not as stable, but it's not especially bad. And we've got doubled up maneuvering thrusters, so it's actually a little bit more maneuverable. We can do backflips almost in place, and do some really awkward spins, and it pretty easily recovers from them. So not a terrible plane, the Mk.13N. Just not as good as the last one, so I'm less impressed by it right now. Moving on. Next we have the Mk.13O, as in, oh, it's tiny. It's only 33 power cores. I think that's almost the smallest one that I've made for the Mk.13 series. It still has a piston glitch for its weapons, but it doesn't have any extra engines pistoned in, or wings. And it doesn't even have the full kit. It's only got 2 smart cannons and 2 rockets. Pitch and roll are on the same servo and control surface, but it's still highly maneuverable because of how small it is. Oh. It is a little unsteady though. Or not so much unsteady, I should say, as sloppy. It does not recover as quickly as it starts spinning. So you have to be a little bit more cautious with this plane, I suppose. But the only special feature it has is the air brake, so I'm going to move on real quick from this one. I haven't used it too often. It's just so that if someone has a much lighter weight plane, I can pull out something that's more fair to fight them with instead of a behemoth. Now we've got the Mk.13P, which is on the longer side. We got a 140 power core one, and I've given this plane out a couple of times, even before I put it on the gallery, because it's just slightly worse than some of my other planes, but good enough that I still feel proud about it. It tracks pretty well. It's nosing down ever so slightly, but almost perfect. We've got decent yaw force. Not the best, but decent. We've got extremely high roll and good roll recovery. Very snappy. And we are a little slow on the pitch because of the extra length and the lack of the doubled up maneuvering thrusters, which would have made up for that, but I didn't put them on here. Anyways, I'm going to move on from this one, because it doesn't have any of the other special features anyways. No sound effect or cruise control, just the air brake. There's the M2 that has the fuel and ammo system in it. I'm not even going to bother spawning it in, because now we've got one of my other all-stars, the Mk.13Q, which is also still in my transform slots because of how good it is. We've got our doubled up maneuvering thrusters that I just mentioned. so we've got a lot more maneuvering force for pitch and roll. And for yaw, I suppose, because I keep forgetting it's all in the same servo and set for these. And it has very, very smooth handling. It does naturally want to trend up or down a little bit. It doesn't want to hold perfect, but it's not nearly as bad as the Mk.13F or the Mk.13 N was. Both of those ones are much sloppier than this one. But that little bit of sloppiness gives it an extra capability for dodging enemy fire, so it's useful. As long as it's not too bad, it's useful. And this one kind of strikes the perfect balance, honestly, of being floppy and steady. And I completely botched that. I should not have I should not have spun when I was going through there. Let's just respawn. And it's got all the standard stuff. 6 smart cannons, 2 rockets, cruise control, air brake, sound effect, all that good stuff. But it's just been a very good plane, all in all. Although there is a plane that's going to soon take its transform slot, and we're almost to it, so I won't say it quite yet. So next up is the Mk.13R, which has a box cannon on it. And if you're not familiar with what a box cannon is, it's a piston-accelerated metal crate dispenser that fires much more rapidly, farther, and with more power than the dispenser can normally manage on its own. Now there's no secondary weapons on this one, so it's just the boxes. And since the impact damage changes a while ago, it no longer demolishes enemies, and now is just a giant fly swatter. Now, those changes were before I built this plane, so I built it to be a bit of a joke. It can't actually damage enemy aircraft very often, but it can knock them into the water with great force, and has done so already. And as for maneuverability, even though it looks chunky, it's actually pretty decent. It's just a little bit slow to recover on different maneuvers because of the extra weight. There's a giant counterweight on pistons hidden in the center of this one to compensate for the recoil. Otherwise the plane would be violently shaking every time you fire the weapon. And if you're interested in building a box cannon, I do have tutorials on it on my channel. I don't know if I'll end up linking them in the description or not, I might completely forget, but yeah. Check them out if you're interested in that. It's a fun weapon. And speaking of fun weapons, next up we have the Mk.13S, which has piston-accelerated bomb bays, which I call bomb bay artillery. And I call them artillery because it lobs the bombs a pretty good distance. Even firing almost straight, they went all the way to the middle of the carrier. So this is kind of like a strike plane or bomber hybrid, maybe? I don't know. It's hard to categorize something like this because, well, planes usually don't throw their bombs forward like that. Actually, I think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think there was one that did it with like a weird catapult thing, but it didn't do it with this amount of force to throw it ahead of the plane. So you can really line up and see where you're going to scatter your bombs with this. And if you're wondering why there's the big pod-looking things on the ends of the wings, that's all the logic blocks that make the weapon work. It's a little bit more complex than the box cannon. I also have tutorials on them, but they're actually outdated because the last update changed the timings on the bomb bays on me. So I need to make a new tutorial on that. Anyways, now I'm talking more about the weapon and the plane themselves, and this is supposed to be about the Mk.13 series. So moving on. Next we've got the Mk.13T, which doesn't have a complete piston glitch, because what we do have is articulation on all of our engines, because this is a VTOL. So you can see on the tail here, we have an articulated one that does show. The rest of them are all enclosed. And as a VTOL should, we can lift straight up off the ground. And we've got pretty good control, because there is a weak gyro stabilizer in this one. It's the closest that any of the Mk.13s have to gyros. But as you can see, it's pretty weak and still allows it to lean quite a bit into its turns, which makes it both look better and perform better. I've only made a couple other VTOL jets, and this is definitely my best one so far. We're missing the rockets because I ran out of well, I didn't run out of buttons technically, but L1 is used to run the VTOL mode thrusters, and R1 runs the ones that are the maneuvering only thrusters. So it's a little too complex to have rockets at the same time, because they're just, well, I don't have that many fingers, honestly. But other than that, it's a pretty nice plane. And I might as well show it flying normally. It is a little bit on the slow side because it's only 73 power cores, but not entirely slow. And it's got really good roll. Kind of slow on the pitch. And okay on the yaw. But it's all about the VTOL mode for this, really. And we'll come in for a nice little landing. Boop. Moving on. Now here's the Mk.13U, which is likely to take one of my transform slots soon if I can iron out the last of its issues. I won't mention the issues because, well, I can't reproduce them outside of a fight. It's just, if it gets damaged in a certain way, the piston glitch goes berserk. And I don't know which piece getting destroyed is the issue. You might have noticed there was a couple pieces that were armored up that I already had suspected to be the culprit. But beyond that, it performs just as good, if not better, than the Mk.13Q. It also looks a little bit smoother because I used some of those new corner rounded wedge blocks, I think they're called, for the cockpit. And yeah. So it's more the same, just perfected. A little bit more stable, a little bit more agile, a little bit faster. Just little improvements at this point, because we're nearing the end of the Mk.13 series and we're just perfecting what we already had. Lovely. Next up, I'm not sure which one of these to show. I suppose I'll show the original payload first. We have the Mk.13V, which is the only proper bomber in the Mk.13 series with an open concept bomb bay. So all manner of payloads or even smaller secondary vehicles could be loaded into this plane. And right now it has bombs that'll detonate both on the surface of the water or when they run out of momentum. So if they hit a wall, it should detonate. Oh, no, it didn't detonate. So now when it stops, it'll detonate. There's a speed sensor in them and a little bit of logic, and it's kind of like an inertial fuse. So when it hits a build, it might break a couple layers of blocks before it actually detonates, like an armor-piercing bomb. Or an armor-piercing shell, I should say. Yeah, you could see that it landed and then detonated just a moment afterwards, when it slowed down enough. And I'm still calibrating what the actual speed to detonate is. I might make it a little bit higher, because right now they tend to slide past where I want them to blow up. And I don't want them to necessarily slide past the target every time. I want them to just detonate just right. Like I said, I'm still tweaking them. I only made this one a couple of days ago. To be honest, I kind of rushed the last couple planes I'm going to show you. I'm not going to lie. But speaking of rushing them, I am noticing I'm running low in recording time, which means this video is running long. So we just did the V. Next up is the W. And this is just a little guy. Just a little 52 power core, with pitch and roll all in the same servo. And it makes for a... Why is my... I feel like my camera was zoomed in too far on this guy, but maybe it's just because it's smaller build. I don't know. Anyways, it's extremely agile. And it's got a little bit of a smaller kit. It's only got 4 smart cannons and 2 rockets. But we still have our sound effect and our air brake. And the only thing we're missing is the cruise control, really, out of our standard features. And yeah, just another light fighter. It is a little bit more agile and a little bit more smooth on the handling than the earlier light fighters, except for maybe the Mk.13L. That one was pretty good. So, not a bad one. But like I mentioned, I kind of rushed the last couple of these because I was excited. And going right from a little one, I decided to make a big one, which I didn't even paint yet. It's got big old control surfaces, and it's the only, well, not the only one, but this late in the series, it's the only one that has a different set of thrust vectoring for yaw, because it's using the servos instead. But it's the same concept, where they're articulated on the already articulated piece. So it's very 3D thrust vectoring going on. Just, it looks kind of janky. It still works. As you can see, despite being so chunky, it's actually got pretty good handling. And we've got 6 smart cannons, no rockets, because I haven't decided whether I want to put rockets or bomb bays on this yet, to be honest. We do have our sound effect and air brake, though. And yeah, I'll move on real quick from this one, because we're almost done. Here's the Mk.13Y, which has variable sweep wings. It was one of the last features that I realized that I had never put on one of the Mk.13s that I wanted to do for them. And we've got 4 smart cannons, no rockets because I haven't, I just didn't find space for the rockets on here, honestly, so I might squeeze a bomb bay or 2 in it. That'll probably work. But yeah, the variable sweep wings are nice because we got all the way out is good for takeoff and stability and things like that. Halfway in, we've got the nice middle ground. Faster roll. A little bit slower on the pitch. And then when we bring them all in, of course, we roll like no one's business, and we go a little bit faster. And last and least, because that is the tradition with the kitten jets, is the Mk.13Z, which doesn't even use space thrusters, it's just mini thrusters because the space thrusters were too big. And it has a pair of smart cannons and a pair of submachine guns, so it's got an absolutely adorably small damage potential. Though the sound effect is quite nice for the shooting, with the submachine gun in there. And we do have our little sound effect, and it's still full thrust vectoring in the back there. You can see that they're on the hinges, and you can even see some of the logic poking out that helps that work. For having things on the same servo and activate individually with multiple controls and all that good stuff. I'm sure anyone who played Trailmakers a little bit knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's the Mk.13 series from A to Z. If you've gotten all the way through, thanks for watching. And just a reminder, if you want to try any of these planes, they're all in the PlayStation Gallery. Just search for Kitten Jet, and it'll all pop up. And then the designation is the Mk.13 space letter. You get the idea. You'll see a whole, when you search Kitten Jet, you'll see a whole bunch of purple planes. That's what I do. But yeah, the Mk.13M, the Mk.13Q, and the Mk.13U are all ones that I highly recommend trying out. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye now. Why is it squeaking so bad? Bye-bye now.